members of the public. Being 5:30, we'll make a start. I declare the ordinary council meeting of Wednesday the 29th of April 2026 open at 5:32. 2. Acknowledgement of traditional owners and dignitaries. I wish to acknowledge the Gari Ara people as traditional custodians of the land we're meeting on. I recognise their strength and resilience and pay my respects to elders past and present. Number 3, recording of attendance. This meeting is being live streamed and audio recorded to facilitate community participation and for minute-taking purposes, which may be released upon request to third parties. In accordance with clause 6.16 of the Town of Port Hedland Standing Orders Local Law 2014, members of the public are not permitted to use any visual or audio electronic device or instrument to record the proceedings of any meeting unless that person is given permission by the presiding member to do so. Members of the public also are reminded that in accordance with clause 6.17 bracket 4 of the Standing Orders, mobile telephones must be switched off and not used during the meeting. I note that all councillors present and their attendance will be listed under item 3.1 of the minutes. 3.1 attendance, of which we are listed there, scheduled for attendance as listed on the document. 3.2, attendance by telephone, instantaneous communications. Notification to the presiding member. I've received a request from Councillor Rachel Baxter to attend the Ordinary Council meeting of 29th of April 2026 by electronic means. In accordance with Regulation 14C(2)(b), a member may attend a meeting of Council if the member is authorised by the Mayor or Council. It is confirmed the Mayor has provided prior approval for this request. Presiding member approval, Councillor Rachel Baxter, your request to attend the Ordinary Council meeting on 29th of April 2026 is approved from a suitable location with a suitable network and equipment under the policy. Be also reminded regarding declarations for maintaining confidentiality. The member attending the meeting electronically must be in a quiet and private indoor location, must have the option to go behind closed doors to reduce noise and maintain privacy. Elected members must use reliable network and suitable equipment. Acceptable networks include private home, internet or Wi-Fi, or a trusted personal mobile device hotspot. Suitable equipment includes Town of Port Hedland provided devices, personal computers or laptops with a video camera. Mobile phones are not suitable for electronic attendance. Fully charged headphones are to be used where possible. If an elected member has an unstable connection during the meeting resulting in disruptions or difficulties, particularly in casting clear votes, the member will be asked to leave the meeting or the connection will be terminated. Declarations for maintaining confidentiality during the meeting. If a member attending a meeting is required to participate in a closed of confidential session, they must declare their ability to maintain confidentiality during that part of the meeting. This declaration must be made before the meeting transitions behind closed doors and will be recorded in the meeting minutes as stated as follows. Councillor Baxter. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Would you please read your declaration for us?
Yes. I, Rachel Baxter, declare that I am able to maintain confidentiality during the closed part of this meeting. If I'm no longer able to maintain confidentiality, I will excuse myself from the meeting.
Thank you. 3.3, apologies. I have listed as Councillor Edwards as an apology. 3.4, approved leave of absence. I do, CEO, please correct me if we have an approved leave of absence here. Or?
Chair, there is no approved leave of absence for tonight. However, in the forthcoming item on applications for leave of absence, there's a request for leave of absence for the Mayor and I believe Councillor Edwards and yourself, on which Council would then make a resolution to approve that leave of absence.
Thank you, CEO. As it stated, 3.4 nil as this and at this point. 3.5 disclosures of interest. CEO, we have a couple.
Chair, yes, we have. We've received interest from Councillor Lorraine Butson, elected member, for this evening's meeting in relation to item number 12.4. She declared a financial interest as her son and daughter work for Viola, and her son is closely associated and lives with herself.
Thank you, CEO.
And there is also a impartiality interest from yourself, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Troy Melville, in item 12.1.3 in relation to fees and charges, just as you're a member of a number of committees, etc. So you're declaring an impartiality interest in relation to that item. They're the only ones received, Chair.
Thank you, CEO. And I'll read that declaration as we approach that item. Thank you. Number 4, approve leave applications for leave of absence. CEO.
Through the chair, on the motions there, governance, we've got a request from the Mayor that the council approve a leave of absence for the period of 29 April 2026. And there is, and perhaps you deal with those one by one, Chair. So that's for the Mayor. The council approved the application of leave of absence for the Mayor, Councillor Berrin, for the period of 29th of April 2026. In effect, a leave of absence for just this evening.
Thank you, CEO. If I may, I'd like to table, I haven't received confirmation, but both the Mayor and myself received some email correspondence from Councillor Edwards requesting of leave of absence, which I'm happy to table as a document. As I said, I haven't got confirmation on the correct wording, but I'm happy to table that as under your guidance, CEO, as to if this can be approved under a leave of absence or will just be noted as an apology.
Through the chair, based on that request for leave of absence, Chair, from Councillor Edwards, further recommendation would be that Councillor Edwards be given a leave of absence from the 29th of April to the 29th of May 2026. Second recommendation.
Thank you very much, CEO. And finally, for myself, I'm requesting a leave of absence from the 30th of April 2026 through to the 10th of the 5th, 2026. 30th of April 2026 through to the 10th of May 2026.
Thank you. Chair, you would put before Council, so there's offer recommendation that sits there, that Council approve the the application of leave of absence for the Mayor, Councillor Berrin, for the period of 29th of April. You need to move second and then carry that.
Do I have a mover?
So move.
Thank you, Councillor Butson. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor. Any against? Motion carried.
Chair, you now have a second recommendation that Councillor Edwards be given a leave of absence from the 29th of April to the 29th of May 2026.
I'm happy to move that as the corresponding person involved with that one, CEO. Do I have a seconder?
So I'll move second it.
Thank you, Councillor. Any against? Motion passed.
Chair, you now have a third leave of absence request for yourself, Councillor Melville. The Council approved the leave of an application for the leave of absence for Councillor Troy Melville from the 30th of April to the 10th of May 2026.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor. And a seconder?
Seconder.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Any against? So moved. Thank you, CEO. No further leave of absence. Number 5, response to previous questions. 5.1, response to questions taken on notice from elected members at the council meeting held on the 25th of March 2026, which there was nil. 5.2, response to questions taken on notice from the public at council meeting held on 25th of March 2026, of which there was nil. Number 6, public time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions of council. Clause 6.7-3 of the Town of Port Hedland Standing Orders local law requires members of the public wishing to ask a question to complete a question form and place their completed form in the tray provided. If myself as a presiding member determine that questions or statements are out of order due to the use of offensive or objectionable expressions or are defamatory, they will not be considered, recorded or responded to. Public questions are allocated for a minimum of 15 minutes under the Act. Public questions and statements received in writing will be provided the opportunity to present first, followed by other members of the public. Do we have any public questions?
None are received in writing, Chair.
Thank you. Question time. Any members of the public? I'd just like to say I declare public question time open at 5:42. Thank you. Can you state your name and address for the...
Yeah, Roger Higgins, 21 Edgar Street, 19 Edgar Street, sorry. I've been a regular attender at council meetings for quite some time, and I've asked questions and made statements. One council ago, I think it was, or maybe it was two, I questioned why it was that we had 3 flags together, but we didn't have a picture anymore of the Queen. Well, the Queen had died. The result was that Prince Charles' picture then appeared on the wall as our head of state. I've come in here tonight and noticed that there's now an additional picture on the wall. My question is, who is it and what is it for, and what's the reason that it's there on display now? I don't quite, so I'd really appreciate that answer because I'll probably make a comment in public statement time once I've got that answer. Does anyone know who that is there?
Thank you, Mr. Higgins, CEO.
Sorry, I need to take it on notice. I'm not aware of the photo and the person. Sorry.
No, thank you.
Can I just add to the
Subsequent question?
Not another question. I just want to make the comment that normally, the stuff that's around here, the paraphernalia that goes with the council meeting has some significance. When the Queen died, that photograph of now King Charles was not there. It was my drawing the attention to council that then resulted in that picture. I think it's a pretty legitimate question to ask, and I'll wait to get the answer, and I say that in a respectful manner, not a critical manner. So please understand me. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Any other questions from the public? Tongue-tied already.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can you state your
John
name?
Ashenden, South Hedland. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Is all excited for your new gig?
They look excited, don't they?
All right, I got 3 questions here for you. Okay. Given that both some previous councillors and members of the public have repeatedly called for an independent forensic audit of the town's finances, and that this was also recommended by the former commissioners, especially Jessica Shaw, why is the council proceeding with increased costs to ratepayers when the full extent of financial mismanagement and wastage has not yet been independently verified?
Thank you. That's a very good question. I'm not sure if there's what I can and can't say in this space. CEO, I'll refer to your guidance here for
This is a question for you. It's not for the administration.
If I could guide you, Chair, on your request. The health check and also the forward improvement plan has been put together, and that identifies a series of items which include finances, ERP, a whole series of components That also sees the Chief Executive Officer working with a remediation group to work through those and make those recommendations to Council to work through those on a required basis. The timing for that may be between 6 months to 2 years to complete all of those items.
And I think in relation to the electoral information, there's some ongoing legal investigations. Is that correct?
The issues in relation to electoral investigations will be undertaken by the WA Electoral Commission, not the town.
Thank you.
Okay, well, what we're asking for is when will a motion for an independent forensic audit be formally brought before Council for consideration and a vote? We're not asking for what the town's doing. We want you guys to do an independent, because they're doing their own.
We're currently, on behalf of the council, we did have a briefing just recently from an independent auditor who gave us some recommendations, and that'll be forthcoming in the. It wasn't ready in time for this particular meeting, but hopefully it's not going to be too long. I couldn't guarantee you an exact time. I don't want to prejudice anything moving forward, but we are aware of some of those items. Thank you.
Righto. Okay, the third question, with the proposed increases to rates and charges, can you clearly outline what specific costs are increasing, what those funds will be used for, and where they are allocated within the budget?
Were you referencing any particular rate increases or just in general?
Just in general, I had a bit of a look at it. There's like certain fees and services have gone up.
Fees and charges or rates? Are you referring
Fees and
to?
charges and
Yep.
so forth, bin collections and whatever else have
So really, not jumping in, you're looking at what costs have increased for the town in particular.
Well, obviously, if the bin charges have increased, so our rates are going to be increased. So where are those funds going to go to, and where are they allocated in the budget?
Thank you. CEO, can you provide any reference?
Thank you. If I could assist, the questions in relation to the general rate provisions that have been proposed, and also the increase to fees and charges. They're across a whole raft of the entire budget. The budget is approximately $122 million, and that would be including the additional cost that the council sees in relation to insurances, costs, fuel, operations, to actually make sure that all of those rates go towards those operational components, and that is adopted in the budget by the council, which will be, I imagine, sometime in July or August of this year.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any chance of sneaking a fourth one in?
Go for it.
Okay. All right. Given that the number of councillors are newly elected and still becoming familiar with the town's financial position, at what point did each councillor first review the draft budget, and how much time were they given to properly understand and assess the proposed increases to costs impacting ratepayers before being asked to make a decision, which is we're going to be voting on tonight?
You're talking about the budget, weren't you?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I said there, wasn't it?
So you're reviewing the budget?
Review the draft budget, yeah.
Yeah. So we've started to review the draft budget. There'll be numerous workshops over the coming months as we lead into adopting the budget in the time frame indicated by the CEO.
Okay. So you're all over the budget, so you know what the increases are for and everything?
I am all over budgets, thank you. I can't speak on behalf of the other councillors, but they're being briefed on itemised items throughout the entire portfolio and the different directorates. They're giving lots of briefing times for questions and answers.
Well, you're going to be voting on that increase.
They're voting on a proposal for advertise some rates, and there's some fees and charges component for tonight, yes.
That's what I'm saying. If you haven't been over the budget, they're going increased, and you're not all over it, then why is voting on it?
So you're voting on some fees and charges and a
tonight.
proposal of rate increases. We're not voting on a budget.
All the councillors have been all over the draft budget, and they understand it.
They're working through the draft budget now, that's correct.
Which is voting on it tonight, though.
We're voting on components of it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public?
Good afternoon, Ash Christensen from South Headland. Before I start my questions. Just want to say a big congratulations to each and every single councillor sitting here tonight. Very exciting times for yourselves, I bet. A few jitters and a few nerves, but don't be afraid of us big bad people looking at you. I think the town's in good hands, and I'm looking forward to see what you guys can do moving forward. First question is in relation to community access to the agendas and information provided by council. Council's recently approved communication plan that was done in the Commissioner's timeframe, which sets minimum timeframes for administration responding to councillors. In previous council's times, there's been policies where there is a set amount of time from the administration's point of view to provide the same back to councillors in relation to agenda items, etc. My concern is that the community appears to be the one group that has not been given the same consideration. Taken tonight in consideration, ratepayers have currently received only 3 working days to read the full agenda, understand the complex government reports within inside of that, and prepare questions. On top of this, the community is also encouraged to submit these questions prior to this meeting so the administration can have some time to adequately respond to those. Does council accept that this creates a double standard when administration asks for adequate time? Councillors expect the same adequate time, but the community, who I believe and argue needs the most amount of time out of those 3 parties to understand these matter. Do we believe that that's a double standard being set currently?
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. I think that was more statement than question, but
I'm just setting it up. Do we believe there's a double standard there?
I do appreciate the context in the background. Being relatively new back in the chair, I do concede there's a finite time frame to be abreast of all the information provided. I think with subsequent changes happening in this particular brief, with new items coming in late, there's always a time constraint, and I don't think there's ever a perfect amount of time, but I can certainly understand where your questioning is coming from about the time frame provided. Will I be able to provide you with an answer that will satisfactorily meet your requirements tonight? Probably not, but happy to take it as we get better in our procedural stuff, and with our new CEO coming on board, there might be some fine tuning in that, some of those areas. CEO, is there anything else you'd like to add to that? Or?
Through the chair, the item in relation to communications under 592 was a policy provision putting up, and that does have dates. Generally, a council runs a meeting every month. It could have a longer period if it so wished, but generally the agendas are out on the Friday evening, so the community can actually have a time to read those. Under the legislation, generally it's 72 hours. I do understand that the volume of some information being provided is intensive, but that's part of the operations of the local government and requirement for councillors and other persons to read those.
Thank you, CEO. I think in a past life, Mr. Christensen, there was agenda briefings a lot earlier in the month, which resulted in a lot more changes and a lot more administrative tasks as the monthly OCM agenda actually got changed, chopped and changed. So trying to find the perfect balance.
No, thanks very much for that. Next question is a financial impact in relation to item 12.4.1, and that would be the tender for the wastewater treatment plant. So when council originally approved the upgrade and construction of the new South Hedland landfill wastewater treatment plant, a business case was presented, which included a return on investment and assumptions around operating costs, revenue and cost recovery through user fees. In this report that you're currently reviewing tonight, council is now being asked to enter into a contract of up to 7 years with ongoing operational cost. However, there appears to be no reference back to the original business case or whether these costs align with the initial financial assumptions. Can administration please provide context on whether the proposed contract costs are consistent with the original business case and return on investment projections presented to council at the time, and what impact these ongoing operational costs will have on the asset's financial performance, including any implications for the waste reserve and for future expenses and fees?
That is a pretty in-depth question. CEO?
Thank you, Chair. Director of Infrastructure.
I did take on notice about the business case. What I can say is that the wastewater treatment plant is self-funded, and so any increases that we have on subcontracting costs will be passed on to the users of that service. The costs have been factored into the wastewater charges moving forward.
Those costs, so my question was more along the lines of you've got an existing business plan, so I'd assume that you would bring the existing business plan up with any new costs associated with it to see whether you're going the right track. I'm just curious to see if we're going off track or on track with that.
Questions?
Sorry.
Is that the second question?
Yeah. Is that your third question?
No, it was just a clarification to the second question.
Clarification on the second?
Well, I said, all I'm asking is, was there a business case brought forward to understand what the changes that have now passed from that? Otherwise, it's pointless bringing business cases up. I'm just curious to see.
CEO?
So if you haven't done that, it's okay.
Through the chair, when the tender provision went out, was a business case considered?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I can't remember.
All right, thank you. Last question in relation to service level agreements and budget transparency. So service level agreements are critical to understanding what the town is delivering, at what standard and at what cost. Without them, I think it's very difficult for both council and the community to properly assess value for money and make informed decisions about expenditure in relation, and at this point in time, in relation to rates. Can the administration please advise when the town service level agreements will be finalised and made available to the community, and why these have not been completed prior to processing decisions around future budget and potential increases in rates revenue?
Just for clarity for myself, is that service level agreement in regards to projects outside or operational or?
My assumption on a service level agreement would be that any service that's delivered by the community or by the town would have an agreement with, what I would used to call the CBP, which would say we have this service, this service, this service, and my assumption would be that we would understand the costs.
Cost of running. Yeah, thanks. CEO?
Thank you. In answering your question, when the staff put the budgets up, they identify a business case for those that would identify any agreements or operational costs that need to be considered. In relation to what actually is a service level agreement, they need further work to actually fully determine how a service level agreement is determined as an operational piece. But in preparing budgets, council staff consider risk, cost, forward plan, resolutions of council and cost to prepare that budget.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? No further questions. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Name and suburb, please.
Good evening. My name is Gillian Fisher. I reside in South Hedland. I have 3 questions tonight. They all correspond to page 31 of the agenda, if you'd like to have a look at that. Possibly, I'll just start with my first question. Can you explain the difference on page 31 of the agenda? On the bottom table, there is 2 GRV residential number of rateable property figures. Can you explain why they are divided up like that, please?
In the bottom table on page 31.
Yep.
One being the minimum amount and one being the rate in the dollar.
Yep.
CEO, is there anything further to that?
Thank you. I've just referred to Director Corporate.
Through the chair, do you refer to the 2 lines that say GRV residential number of properties 5,310 and GRV residential number of properties 1,047?
Yeah, they're the 2 figures, yep.
The first line is the number of properties who are rated at the rate in the dollar. The second line is the number of properties that are rated at the minimum.
Okay, so what actually constitutes a minimum one for the 1,047? Is that a pensioners rate, or can you explain it?
In our rating structure, we determined that the minimum rate for a residential property is $1,300. That is applied to properties who, through the GRV residential rate, would fall under $1,300.
Okay, so can you just describe the why those properties are different to the ones in the top line? Why are they like divided like that? I don't understand.
Through the chair, that is, these properties, if the regular rating was the rate in the dollar was applied, their rate would be under $1,300.
Right. Okay then. Okay. So my second question was, can you please list specifically what pastoral stations get for their rates?
CEO.
There's nothing specific to particular wards that where we can, like a ward account or put those provisions, but the utilisation of town services, etc., it's a part of all being a rateable service that can be charged under the rateable components. It's also about road grading, road maintenance. There's not a specific piece you can actually allocate it. It's all about putting those rates together and actually how all the different services are actually provided. You can't allocate that directly to a pastoral specific property or a pastoral piece. It's about how do we maintain some of those services and the access and contributing towards the overall rates that are achieved and received by the town.
Okay, so in saying that grading, you mentioned road grading then, they don't do, to my knowledge, the council doesn't do any internal road grading. Most stations do their own grading. Most stations remove their own rubbish and work out how they're going to dispose of that. They're basic things that roads, rates, rubbish and recreation that council covers for residents of Port Hedland and South Hedland. So what other things do cattle stations actually have to be get in return for the figures? Because looking at this, for the proposed rate increase is $798.72 per year. What are they going to get for that?
CEO.
Yeah, through the chair, it's about a rateable component based on differential rating, and that's the amount that's allocated to actually maintain roads, other services for the entire town. It's about being a part of the community. You can't specifically say that particular service is achieving a particular value for rates or particular roads. We don't do grading on a station road unless it's actually declared public road, but all of those roads that access those, of which we've got about, I think it's 458 kilometres of roads in the district, that goes towards a total cost, including all other rating revenues to actually make our services and our rate capabilities. Waste services, if you're going to put a waste service out to pastoral stations, you would need to charge a higher level of a rate because the cost to collect it would be a lot higher.
But they don't use the services of waste anyway.
Through the chair, and that's why the rate level is at the rate level that it is, not at a higher level.
Yeah, I just see that they've been, their average weekly increase is going to be another $15. And what do they get for that? But anyway, my last question is, why was there no increase in rates proposed for the airport?
CEO.
Through the chair, I don't have a specific question on the rate on the airport. The airport would be the rate level as determined by the valuer general. We apply that rate to it. The question is why not an additional charge? I presume that's in relation to leasing or other components. Director, I'll be able to clarify further than what I have knowledge of.
Yes, it is, but we will take this question notes and provide a more detailed answer.
Okay, thank you for your...
Thank you for your questions. Can we please ensure all our phones are switched off? Any further questions?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Presiding Member. Good evening to councillors and Deputy Mayor and CEO and staff, and congratulations to everyone sitting in the chair, and it's great to see our council all back together again, so thank you for that. Just a few questions, and I do understand if they have to be taken on notice, that's okay, so thank you, Deputy Melville. So my question has been asked twice before regarding the area of land next to the Headland Senior High School at Hamilton Road, across from the Blue Stadium. And I just wanted to ask about this land, which was originally Horizon Power land a few years ago and apparently has changed hands. And it was seen to be earmarked in the newspaper a couple of years ago for a service station, some restaurants, alcohol to be at the restaurant, and fast food, and also a supermarket. So this is something which we know is not to be next to a high school. I just wanted to know, as this is now the third time I've asked this question, is there any more future developments on this, or has it been put to bed? Because the original status was that it was going to be a meandering pathway, which was planned from the organisation form quite a number of years ago, and to have artistic way of having plants and native flora going through there. So is there any more update on that, if I could please ask? I do understand if it needs to be taken on notice.
Thank you, Ms Gillingham. Did you get a previous answer from the previous questions?
No, I did ask twice to our commissioners, and they did say that nothing was happening, and also directed to a director to say that it was on hold at the moment, or is it still on hold, or is it something that's going ahead? Because as far as I know, the staff at the high school have no idea that this was actually on the books.
Okay, thank you. CEO, can you provide some?
Thank you, Chair. If I can refer to Director of Regulatory Services, please.
Thank you. Through the Chair, Council supported a major land transaction business plan for these two lots. One was owned by Horizon Power, the other a Crown lot owned by the state. So that the Council entered into an agreement with a developer to purchase and on-sell the land. And there are obligations that are outstanding on that agreement with the developer. They've met the initial obligations. They received planning approval from the Development Assessment Panel in March 2025. So that approval remains valid for a period of 4 years. But under the agreement between the town and the developer, the next milestones are to lodge a building application by the 30th of June and commence construction on the 1st of July. We have not received any official request from the developer to extend those timeframes, but that's not to say that a request may be made between now and that date. Following the next milestones being met, the contract of sale and settlement would occur between the town and the developer.
Okay. Can I add to that, what about a public consultation for people in Port and South Headland that this could possibly go ahead when it's right next to a high school?
CEO, was there any context for that?
Thank you. Director?
Through the Chair, the Development Assessment Panel application was publicly advertised in early 2025. A number of submissions were received from nearby landowners and occupiers. I don't recall if a submission was received from the Department of Education, but I understand there were other nearby concerned landowners. The panel deliberated and considered the public submissions and resolved to approve the application with conditions. So I understand some of the submissions, their concerns were proposed to be dealt with via management plans, which would be worked out when the operation of each of those tenancies was known following construction.
Okay, thank you. Question 2, listening to our ABC Karratha radio today, and also that's been in the news about the grow housing that has been announced by the West Australian government. My question is that it was spoken on the radio today from the Karratha mayor saying that regarding the grow housing, that it has not had public housing in Karratha for up to 30 years, and that's very similar to Port Hedland. So my question is, if I can ask through the presiding member to the CEO, is to please explain to our public about the WA government's new GROW housing, which I do believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is spelt G-R-O-H. As most people in town think it's G-R-O-W. This is not public housing, this is government housing. So could this be explained and regarding the housing initiatives which were declared on the radio and in the public over the last couple of days? So I do understand if it has to be taken on notice.
Thank you, CEO. Do you have much context on that at this stage?
Yeah, so I can provide best say an answer, and if necessary, we'll give you further information. But it refers to the announcement by the Premier, I think about $419 million across what they call the 7 sort of cities, of which Port Hedland is one of those. It's specifically for state government housing, so that the state's making investment into these 7 cities, which are regional centres by the government of Western Australia, to build houses in the state. I know there are some discussions about the ability to have builders and how do you achieve that, but I believe the state's trying to look at some sort of modular system and put it out through a tender process. But very specifically, it is provision provided by the state of Western Australia.
Thank you, CEO. My third question is regarding the reef. We've seen recently with the big high tides that there's so much iron ore in our harbour, washing along the beaches, etc. It's very noticeable that at low tides recently that there's a lot of cover over the reef. Please could we ask that the town of Port Hedland seek more studies into how our reef can be more protected and looked after, and also to be respected by our mining people here. I've asked this several times, and others have asked this several times, and it would be appreciated if you even just taken on notice that it could please be looked into.
Might have to take that one on notice. Thank you, Ms Gillingham. But CEO, is there anything from the environmental perspective that we can add?
Through the chair. Now, generally the town's responsible for everything above the high water mark. Some of those areas you're referring to probably refer to the Pilbara Port Authority's area or the Department of Transport area. But if I could clarify further, perhaps if I could refer that to a Director of Regulatory Services for how do we deal with advocacy in relation to sustainability, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, the land on the reef is managed by Pilbara Ports, so everything from the beach and the dunes is the town. We can take that on notice and we can potentially get a letter off to the Pilbara Ports to get a response to that question.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the public? With no further questions, we'll call question time concluded at 6:14. We'll move on to public statement time. I declare public statement time open at also 6:14. Do we have any public statements?
Good evening again, John Ashenden from South Hedland.
Good evening.
Rightio, the statement. This town has been going backwards, and everyone in this room knows it. We are seeing declining services, declining confidence, a declining permanent population, and a community that is increasingly frustrated. Yet at the same time, the expectation is that ratepayers continue to pay more. That simply does not add up. What concerns many of us is that these increases are being pushed forward without a clear and independently verified understanding of where the money is actually going and where it has gone. We have repeated calls, not just from the public, but from within leadership itself, for an independent forensic audit of the town's finances. That has not happened. I've asked many times myself. So the obvious question is, how can you justify asking the community to pay more when you don't yet have full transparency over past spending and identified wastage? That is not accountability. That is not good governance, and it is certainly not fair to the people footing the bill. People in this town are not blind. They can see the decline. They can feel the pressure. And they are asking the very reasonable question, where is the money going? Before any further financial burden is placed on this community, there needs to be transparency, accountability, and an independent verification of the town's financial position. Anything less undermines public trust even further. This is not about politics, this is about responsibility. Because at the end of the day, it is not council's money, it is ratepayers' money. And they deserve answers before they ask to pay more. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further statements from the public?
Yeah, good afternoon. Dave McGowan, Sutherland Street, Port Hedland. Just a general statement about the proposed rates increase for business, small business, and I notice it's 5% is proposed. That's about $300,000 in extra revenue. I just think that the small businesses have enough trouble in town already with costs, fuel, wages, mining companies pinching their staff and everything else, and it needs to be taken off the table. That 5% needs to be taken off the table, and the council can dig into their absurdly large cash cow in the bank of around $250 million. And I just think that is a better choice from the public's perspective. They'll see that you're looking after them a little bit, and that money in there is only going to be interest anyway. It's less than interest for a couple of months. So I just think that 5% should be taken off the table. And the other thing is about the observation tower. I only had a quick read of that. It was only late notice, but that tower needs to be kept and developed as a tourism thing, but also to get people back up the top again. I've had experience with it. One of the things to keep the maintenance costs down is to consider getting some communications company to have the top. I used to have my antennas up there years ago, and we had to remove them when it was deemed unsafe 15 years ago. So that's how you can keep your costs down on that. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Much appreciated.
Roger Higgins, 19 Edgar Street. I wasn't intending to make a statement, but I've been prompted to make to say what I'm about to say by the commentaries that we've just heard, just with the last two speakers. I know it's not. I've had my opportunity to ask the question, but I want to incorporate a question into this statement, which I want to each of the individual councillors. The question that I think that the ratepayers and the people that have spoken here would really like to know is how many of the councillors actually pay rates on the property where they live. I'm putting that in the form of a statement because I can't actually make it as a question right now. But I will come back at the next council meeting and put it in the form of a question. So I'm giving you due notice. I think we who pay rates, and I'm one of them, would like to know how many elected councillors now actually pay rates in the house where they live. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
Thought I might save you some time and get up before you need to say it again. Ash Christensen, South Hedland. So before I get to my main point here tonight, I want to again touch on briefly a note of concern of mine around item 12.4.1 again. Like I've mentioned and touched on in my question time, when this asset was when the item was originally brought to council to be approved, It was supported through a business plan and a business case built on specific assumptions around cost, revenue and return on investment. Those assumptions were fundamental to Council making its decision to proceed. However, as you've taken on note with my questions here tonight, the information before Council tonight, there is no clear reference back to those assumptions or whether this proposed contract aligns with those. Without that connection, in my opinion, Council is effectively making a financial decision without understanding how it tracks against the original intent. I think you'll hear some connections and some frustrations and some concerns when you also link it back to rates and how things going forward. I think it's important that any decisions made in the past where it is backed by business cases and previous decisions, you must go back and revisit those to ensure those assumptions are correct. Because if you don't know it or not by now, Council pays a lot of money for these special contractors to make these assumptions, and very rarely do I see them get stress test or actually factually check back in time to see whether these assumptions are correct or not. They're in my mind, they're pivotal to making decisions moving forward, and you guys will see that when you start making your capital decisions moving forward. Assumptions drive everything that we do in the Council position. I further also want to touch briefly on a concern that's already been raised here tonight in relation to the potential increase of rates for the 26-27 budget. At its core, a budget should align revenue with clearly understood and justified expenditure. Increasing rates should not be the starting point. It should be the outcome of a disciplined process where spending has first been properly tested, prioritised and aligned to the community needs, not wants or nice to haves. At the moment, I'm not confident there is a clear line of sight between what is being spent, the level of service being delivered and the outcomes the community can expect from those rates that we are paying. Without clearly defined services, measurable outcomes and a strong understanding of current expenditure, I believe it's impossible to justify asking the community to contribute any more money to an already exorbitant budget. I would strongly encourage Council, as part of the upcoming budget process you will undertake, to focus on understanding the existing spend, clearly define service expectations and ensure that resources are directed toward community needs and not so much community wants. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any further statements from the public?
Thank you. Good evening. Jan Gillingham and Cook Point. Thank you. I did listen to the radio today, the Karratha radio, and it was very, very interesting. I actually heard Mrs. Marag Lowe from Headland First National actually was interviewed just before 11 o'clock through our radio. And it was just an interesting in-depth into everything to do with housing. And she has been in town here for 21 years, that she stated on the radio. And I just think if you get the opportunity to listen to that ABC Karratha segment, which I know you can recall it back onto your phone or onto the internet, it was very, very interesting for everybody, especially our new councillors who may need to sort of know a little bit more history of the housing. I actually tried to get through to the radio myself this morning, and the words which I had on my phone here to read out was, it's regarding the GROW housing, G-R-O-H housing. This is, as stated by, through the chair tonight and through our CEO, that GROW housing is to do with government housing and government workers, wherever areas are the government workers. This is not talking about public housing. Now, most of us have lived in Port Hedland for a long time. This is my 41st year in Port Hedland. I am in government public housing. I rent public housing, and it's for those people who can charge 25% of their income. So in South Hedland, we have the Osprey Village, and I have spoken about this before. When our Minister for Housing at the time, Mr. Carey, first came to Port Hedland, and we sat around the table as councillors talking about the Osprey Village, and we said to him, the land next to Osprey Village, we could have another 1 or 2 or 3 Osprey villages. It would be important for us to have these key service worker housing. But at the moment in South Hedland, in Osprey Village, we have 50 teachers, there may be a bit more now, that are housed there because there's been no housing for the GROW housing for the teachers that has been built in over 15 years in Port and South Hedland. So it has been moved into the key service worker housing, which is for your kids who are doing apprentices. They need key service worker housing, living in here. The hairdresser, the person that works at the shopping centre, the Kmart, or wherever, or works in our chemists or housing. These are key service worker people. And yes, I admire our state government for putting this initiative, but it's the grow housing. It's not the public housing. So there are still people on a waiting list. Look, correct me if I'm wrong, at least 6 years waiting list for public housing, for that general public that live in Port Hedland, that has grown up in Port Hedland, who's gone to school in Port Hedland, and they don't have places where they can move out of home. Right? But the information which I talked about today is that state government need to also push for public housing. So the public housing which I know in the city are that if you're eligible for government housing, if there is a private concern, they go out and find a house, and state government then pay the difference between the 25% of their income and how much that house is rented. So if that house is rentable for $700 a week, that's being taken care of by our state government for public housing. That's all over the state, all over, not just in the metropolitan area as well. This is the idea of which I'm reading into, which was being announced. So I'm standing up for the public housing people here today, because I know that the grow housing are your people in the courts, who are teachers, in lots of the government government businesses and that. I can't say I'm correct about the housing for the hospital, because maybe that comes under different with health. But I do know that the town of Port Hedland has helped big initiatives for doctors' housing in town here. And I commend the town of Port Hedland for doing this over the years. So we've been able to retain that housing. So that is so important. But I live in a public housing, which means I have to install my own air conditioners. I have to install my own reticulation to water my plants. And let's face it, everything grows up here if you just add water. It really does, believe me. But when I depart my premises and hand it back to state housing, I have to take those air conditioners out. I cannot let them stay there for the next person that's coming in. I cannot not even sell them to the next person coming in and say, hey, I've already got the air conditioners in. I've paid a lot of money. I've got my receipts for it. I've been given the okay to have these. These sort of rules are not with grow housing. There is air conditioning in. There is reticulation. There's a different status between public housing and grow housing. I'm here, standing here for the public housing. But going back for our teachers, love the Osprey there. Let's ask the town of Port Hedland to ask for more Osprey-type villages, because it's a lovely way for them to live. It's a really lovely community in the Osprey, and it was something that was built quite a number of years ago, but was looked down on in a bad way, saying, we don't need this, we don't need this. But we allowed it to happen, and we passed it at council, and it has been something, thank goodness, that we have the Osprey. But it's not there at the moment with a lot of people living there because of its key service worker housing. And we know the teachers need to have their housing. But it was spoken on the radio today that the blocks of land have been sold that were belonging to the state government for teachers' housing have not been replenished. So there's something amiss there. But I see the initiative in what the government has mentioned there. So for our ratepayers, should our ratepayers be funding key service worker houses if it's just for the grow houses, GROH? It should also, we should be having public housing, and it's not for our ratepayers to put their hands in their pockets, that they pay their rates and it's going to that. I do hope that the state government really look into this and do this the correct way, but also we need that public housing. So please, could we have that? Going back, though, to the land in South Hedland, if I'm just changing the subject, is that it seemed quite convenient when it was advertised for public consultation that it was the end of the year and it was during the school holiday break. I even missed putting in a submission because I was in Perth. I didn't even see it advertised in my local paper because I wasn't in Perth to get my local paper. I found about it too late. So I really hope there is more public consultation, because people living in and around the Robert Street area and beyond have never been contacted, to my knowledge, from what they have told me. So I think the public consultation should really go ahead more. Look, there is plenty of more land in South Hedland to have a supermarket somewhere else. Yes, we'd love to have another supermarket, be it an IGA or an Aldi or something like that. But next to a high school, I really think we need to be doing our homework. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further public statements? Just before I close public statement time, can I thank you all for your statements and your well-researched and articulated thoughts. And there's a lot of very valid points that I think you'll find that council can certainly relate to. So thanks very much for that. We'll call public statement time closed at 06:32. 6.3, petitions, deputations, presentations, submissions, of which we have nil. Number 7, questions from members without notice. Do we have any questions from the councillors this evening? Yes.
Yes, I have some questions. My first question would be, these are from members of the public that have contacted me. Who is responsible for the dental clinic at the Hedland Health Campus compliance with out there? Is it to do with the council should be making sure it's compliant, or the health department?
CEO.
Through the chair, generally that's a matter for the state. I think there is a board that you could report it if there wasn't a compliance issue. Director Rectory, in relation to a public health perspective, has anything come across there, Chair?
Through the chair, can I just clarify, is this relating to building compliance?
Yes, it is related to building compliance. I had an elderly man that they have a transportable building in the car park, in the engineering car park between Collara House and the Hedland Health Campus. Doesn't have a disability ramp. He had to park his little buggy down the bottom and had to try and walk up the stairs into this, which is heighted up. Doesn't have any water, and doesn't have any toilets there as well too. So,
through the chair, the permit authority for state government property is generally the Department of Building, Maintenance and Works, which is part of the Department of Finance.
and is there any chance that we can write to them, re the concerns of the public, or not?
CEO.
Sorry, Chair, through to you, Director. Refers to the code, I imagine, as well.
Through the chair, yes, we can raise that with the department.
Yeah, that would be great, thank you. My second question is the main road on Fossil Street. I was just going to ask about, actually, there's a lot of cracks in that road and potholes, and it's going right across the roads, all the way down that massive of street down there. Is there any chance of actually just getting that looked at and having it checked, please? Bitumen.
CEO.
Through to you, Director of Infrastructure.
The latest mobilisation for roading will happen over the next couple of months, so that'll be fixed.
Okay, thank you. The Kennedy Street Pundle trees, I did send an email, but the public is still wanting to know, with the Pundle trees, how come all of them got removed off the Kennedy Street new complex being built by Grounded?
CEO.
Through the Chair to the Director of Regulatory Services.
Through the chair, the grounded construction project on Kennedy Street was approved by the Development Assessment Panel last year. They did retain some significant mature trees on site as part of their site planning, but they were approved by the panel to remove other vegetation on the site in line with the construction management plan and there's Australian standards to protect the trees to be retained, such as fencing them, etc. So they would need to comply with those conditions of approval.
Is that due to the GDAP panel? Yeah, okay. And the last one is that there's a few people have come up about the markets that are going to be held downtown. The vendor vans are asking why they have to pay $60 to have a van down there. And the second question to them is, why do they have to be down there at 1:30 in the afternoon for a 5 o'clock start to have their food vans inspected?
Thank you. Through the CEO.
Thank you. Through to the Director of Regulatory Services.
I'll take that one on notice. It does sound like it's probably an operating hours of town health officers' consideration, but I will take it on notice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further, Councillor Buzzard?
No, thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Baxter over there, you're okay? Everyone good? Thank you. Moving on, announcements by presiding member. As you can see in the documentation from the commissioners and some of the meeting details they had before, I do have a prepared statement if you indulge me for tonight. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Garryara people, which we did earlier, as the traditional custodians of the land that we meet on, and pay my respects to the elders past and present and emerging. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us this evening. I wish to advise that the Mayor is unable to attend tonight's meeting, and as Deputy, as you're aware, I'm chairing this evening's proceedings. This marks our first meeting, ordinary council meetings, and newly elected council. It's an important moment for us, and one that presents a renewed opportunity to work together and focus on a mutual respect and a shared commitment to serving our community. And I must say there's a real vibrancy and excitement amongst the group. If I go off tangent here and just the communications I've had with all these people, we're really looking forward to working really hard for the town. I thank my fellow councillors for the confidence in the special election to elect me as a deputy. I look forward to working closely with the Mayor and my fellow councillors and the organisation that we continue to lead the town through a period of positive and purposeful change. Before we move into the next part in the proceedings, I'd just like to briefly acknowledge some of the community moments that we've had in the short tenure here. Earlier this month, Headland proudly celebrated Youth Week WA. I had the pleasure of attending some of the events during the week, and was struck by the energy, leadership, generosity of our young people, particularly the Youth Advisory Council, who played an active role in delivering the events alongside stakeholders, staff and volunteers. Youth Week was a strong reminder of an important role young people play in shaping Headland's future, and I do sincerely hope they take me up on the offer to critique me at one of their meetings once they're fully established. And no, it was wonderful to see their impact and their ownership of that whole week. Also, I wanted to briefly acknowledge the 80th anniversary of the 1946 Pilbara strike, which is being commemorated this Friday. The strike was a significant moment in our region's history and a powerful stand for fairness and dignity. I encourage community members to come along to the commemorative walk, an evening event as we come together to learn, listen and acknowledge this important chapter in Pilbara's history. On a personal note, it's probably one that's often forgotten about and misaligned and talked about in the big regions of Australia, but you've got to remember that little event that marks such a turning point in Australian history happened right here, right down the road. I met some of the ancestors that were involved who had relatives involved in that strike, and just hearing their story and their message, it's a really powerful story. So I'm actually a bit upset that I'm not going to be here for that one. Finally, I'd like to recognise the successful conclusion of the Always Good Nights live music series. With strong attendance, including near capacity finale, the series showcased how arts and culture contribute to Headland's livability. I acknowledge the town's events team for their work, thank you very much, and the Pilbara Ports for their continued support as a major sponsor. I also warmly welcome all the members of the public who are here tonight, and thank you for taking the time to engage with the council for your statements and questions. I also acknowledge the staff. Thanks for all your work and getting us up to speed and ready for tonight's meeting. And hopefully we'll make things a little bit easy for you in the coming weeks. No promises. Also, I'd like to thank the previous commissioners for their commitment for their short period of time in town. and also welcome Andrew as his role as the new monitor. I'd also like to acknowledge the previous council members, again being only short term here and getting up to speed with a lot of things. I must say they've honoured the commitment that was had in a previous council that I may have been a part of. So thank you very much for your contribution to the town and the acknowledgement for the hard work you've done in that time in between. And finally, I'd like to give a heartfelt thank you on behalf of not only myself, the Mayor, and I'm sure the other councillors here tonight, to our temporary CEO, Mr. Ken Donoghue. It was always nice to welcome a headliner back home. So it's been an absolute pleasure to have your guidance, insight and care for the community being shown forthright amongst us all. It's been well received, greatly appreciated. I wish you all the very best as you're moving forward and look forward to seeing you calling in to say hello. And obviously as part of that, we're going to welcome Dale to the new CEO role and wish him all the very best as well. Thank you. Number 9, declarations to all members are given due consideration to all matters contained in the business paper before the meeting. I invite all elected members to declare by show of hands that they're given due consideration to all matters contained within the agenda. Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Number 10, confirmation of previous minutes. Officers' recommendation. Council confirm the minutes of the special council meeting held on 19th of March 2026 as true and correct. Simple majority vote required. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any against? So carried. The next recommendation from the previous minutes that Council confirm the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 25th of March 2026 as true and correct record. Simple majority vote required. Do I have a mover?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any against? So carried. And finally, that Council confirm the minutes of the special council meeting held on the 2nd of April 2026 are a true and correct record. Simple majority vote required. Do I have a mover?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconder?
Second.
Thank you. Any against? So carried. Reports of committees. 11.1, Audit Risk Compliance Committee, of which we have nil at this stage. 12, reports of officers. 12.1, Corporate Services. 12.1.1, the ARIC Independent Member Appointments, Declaration and Revised Terms of Reference. Officers' recommendation that Council, pursuant to Section 5.8 of the Local Government Act 1995, establish a Audit Risk and Improvement Committee as a committee of Council to operate in accordance with Part 7 of the Act. Point 2, appoint candidate A as independent presiding member of the Town of Port Hedland Audit Risk and Improvement Committee for a term commencing 29th of April 26 and concluding on 16th of October 2027. Appoint candidate B as independent deputy presiding member of Town of Port Hedland Audit Risk and Improvement Committee for a term commencing on the 29th of April 26 and concluding on the 16th of October 2027. Appoint candidate C as an independent deputy of the presiding member of the Town of Port Hedland Audit Risk and Improvement Committee for a term commencing on the 29th of April 2026 and concluding on the 16th of October 2027. 5, that Council under Section 5.16 of the Local Government Act 1995 delegates to the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee the function of meeting with the auditor of the local government at least once every year for the purposes of Section 7.12A Part 2 of the Local Government Act 1995, with a delegation to be recorded in the town's Register of Delegations. 7, adopt the revised Town of Port Hedland Audit Risk and Improvement Committee Terms of Reference as per Attachment 7, requiring an absolute majority vote. Do we have any questions or points of reference? If nil, do we have a mover?
I'll move that, thank you.
Thank you, councillor. And a seconder? Thank you, councillor. Any against? So moved. Absolute majority passed. 12.1.2, Statement of Financial Activity, March 2026. Officer's recommendation that Council receive the monthly financial report for the period ending 31st of March 2026, as shown in Attachment 1. Receive the accounts paid under delegated authority period ending 31st of March 2026, as shown in Attachment 2. Receive the purchasing card statements for period ending 31st of March 2026, as shown in Attachment 3. Receive the investment summary report for the period ending 31st of March 2026, as shown in Attachment 4. Receive the year-to-date budget fee actual report by Directorate for the period ending 31st of March 2026, as shown in Attachment 5. And receive the capital listing report for the period ended 31st of March 2026, as shown in Attachment 6. Do we have any points of clarification, councillors? I do have one, if I may, CEO, as I reference some of the some of the card purchases, and apologies if this has been discussed previously, in relation to, and I believe you've probably got a educated response to this, the flights that we have for our staff for appointments and meetings in Perth. Do we or we don't qualify for people with the residential flights in town?
Sorry, Chair, just that question again.
So with the flights that we use for our town staff to go to Perth and back, do they qualify for the residential flight cap provided by the state government?
Look, I would take it on notice if we could take advantage and that they qualified for those sort of $299 or whatever the cap component is, we would take advantage of it. Generally, we try and get the best value that we can for flights. Sometimes if it's a rapid meeting, same with councillors, etc., that might be attending, we'll again just choose the best available flight to attend a particular meeting. And sometimes those regional components wouldn't be available. The seats may have been taken.
Thank you. Would there be, on any occasions, that we look to an employee or individual to pay for their own expenditure while away and we reimburse at a later stage?
Yes, there could be circumstances where somebody has incurred a cost because they didn't have access to perhaps a credit card or a purchase order, and it was a cost attributable to their employment. They could actually ask for reimbursement that would be considered by the administration.
Thank you. And is that documented anywhere where we have a monthly rebate or reimbursement statement?
All purchase orders or reimbursements will be running through the generally either some form of creditors system or payment system, so that could be recorded. If it was a credit card payment, those credit card payments are recorded and provided to council.
Thank you. No other references or questions from the council?
With these flights that we do for staff going to meetings in Perth, is there any of those that can actually be Teamed in?
Through the chair, thanks.
Thank you. Where there's an opportunity for Teamsing, it will always be the first priority. If there's a requirement for somebody to attend a formal committee or if it's a training piece where they're requiring that and we can't get that, and if also, council, if we can't get somebody actually coming up, if it was a training issue and actually doing training in-house, bring them up themselves, we would try and take advantage of those first and primary.
Thank you. No further clarification points or questions? Do I have a mover that we receive those financial statements?
Also move.
Thank you, councillor. And a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anyone against? So moved. 12.1.3, proposed fees and charges for 2026-27. The officer's recommendation that council pursuant to section 6.16 and 6.19, to 6.19 of the Local Government Act 95 adopts the Town of Port Hedland 2026-27 schedule of fees and charges as detailed in attachment 1. I do have a declaration. CEO, if I can pinch my piece of paper back, thank you. With regard to the agenda item 12.1.3, I disclose that I have an impartiality interest due to the submissions by some sporting groups in their role as the executive, of which I do have a common interest, as I'm a member of one of those particular clubs and help out with one of the others. As a consequence, there may be perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Thank you. Are there any points of clarification?
Yes, I have one point of clarification. Due to what one of the community has actually asked for, can we look into the commercial small business rating at a later date?
CEO?
Through the chair, this particular item is relating to fees and charges.
Yep. Oh, okay.
On the items, we're referring to the rates in the dollar. I guess we're advertising that, and we would chase those components. People have the ability to provide submissions, but that's a later agenda item,
Okay.
councillor.
Thank you.
Any other points of clarification or questions? Councillor?
I just have concerns about the submissions around the status of the facilities and how so the rates are increased, but they're not kind of up to par. I'd like to probably get a look at that from the town.
CEO, can you provide some clarity around that?
Through the chair, I guess the particular question in council is in relation to asset management and how do we actually look at the asset management components. You might recall that in their forward improvement plan, one of the things we're actually really doing is sort of going beyond fair value and really trying to dig down into some of the assets that we've got and how do we maintain those. That again is going to be dependent upon cost and ensuring that we get appropriate asset management projects underway. We do have staff on board that are working through that in the infrastructure department at this stage, so we identify those particular shortfalls.
Thank you. Any other points of clarification? I do have a couple. In regards to the attachment that's listed as number 1, discretionary fee review, 2nd of the 4th, 26, through CEO, is that the correct attachment, the 32 pages referencing 12.1.4.1? As it seemed to be referring to rates, not fees and charges.
Through the Chair, Director of Corporate Services, attachment.
I'm happy to state I'm not the most computer literate CEO, if...
Through the chair, Deputy Mayor, I think you are correct. It is the document of 32 pages, but I think you're correct in that the number referenced is not matching the attachment.
Okay, so the next follow-up questions, is there any relevant information in that needed to be presented to council before we can make this decision, CEO?
Through the Chair, Director.
Through the chair, this seems to be a numbering issue, not a problem with the content. The item referenced in the content is 12.1.4.1. In the attachment, it seems to have the number 12.1.3.1, but the content itself seems to be the correct attachment.
So the content in that attachment is correct for the rates, but isn't relevant for the fees and charges. Is that correct, CEO?
Through Chair, Director.
The document in the attachment, Town of Port Hedland Review of Fees and Charges, is the correct document under the incorrect attachment number.
Right. Thank you. In response to some of the submissions that were made, what would be the costing amount should council wish to keep green waste and the sporting clubs hiring fees to the same figures as they were in 25-26? CEO.
Thank you, Chair. Through to the Director of Corporate and perhaps also to the Director of Infrastructure, if APRA provides some information in relation to green waste costs. I think Director of Infrastructure perhaps could provide some information on green waste.
So we would be looking to weigh green waste instead of having a minimum. So it would come through on weight. I think it would be negligible. Most of the green waste is actually domestic green waste. And we only have a small number of, or the town's green waste, we only have a small number of contractors that bring waste over. So we would look to weigh that rather than charge them the minimum.
Thank you. As a point on that, through you, CEO, in the event that it was a commercial removal to the average trailer load of green waste, what would that cost be on a commercial basis as opposed to someone dropping it for nothing as a resident?
Thank you. I wouldn't be able to give you that exact by dollar figure. I could take that on notice if you wish to, but I'll perhaps ask the Director if we've got, like a trailer load or a cubic load cost that was considered as a part of that, and is there a way to estimate that figure? It might not be able to be provided tonight.
What I can say is that residents are able to use the tip for free. So you pay for your weekly bin pickup, but if you've got a trailer full of green waste and you are a resident of town, you're not a commercial operator, you will be able to put your waste into the tip and you're not charged for it at the gate. So I think that's a terrific thing that the town does. For commercial operators, what we did was we had a minimum that we said that we would charge. What we're saying now is, given that we had that feedback, and I think the council were happy to consider it, that we would weigh it and you would just pay on what the weight is, the same as any other commercial operator. What I would say is that green waste is actually quite expensive to deal with. It needs to be shredded. It can only be in piles that are so big because of the fire risk. So there's actually quite a lot of management that the town has to do to manage green waste coming in over through the gate. The town also provides an annual green waste pre-cyclone clean-up opportunity. So for 3 weeks of the year, and I think we generally do it in September, we enable residents to put green waste out onto the verge, and the town picks that up to encourage, to make sure that houses are safe and there's not a lot of green waste that can be blown around and cause damage in the event of a cyclone.
Thank you for that. So just for clarity, in the event I was unable to remove my green waste due to an impairment, or I was elderly, or I had no trailer, I could engage with someone else who may have a trailer but would be in a commercial business, but I couldn't indicate that it was a resident waste removal would have to be charged correctly as a...
But look,
I'm only referencing the...
we would do that on a case-by-case basis. So if it was residential and they borrowed somebody's trailer, that would be fine. But if it is you're paying a commercial operator to remove your waste, that is a commercial fee that will need to be paid, and the business that has taken your waste away will be charging you for that as well. So, you know, for residents, we enable residents to not pay to have access to the tip.
And I must say, through CEO, I think it is a wonderful initiative that we do here. So as long as the commercial business wasn't charging me to remove it, there would be the opportunity for me to have that removed on my behalf. Thank you. Through the CEO, in regards to the fees for the sporting groups, for the rentals?
Through the chair, I've received an inquiry through our communication components. We'd like to do a full study, and I've spoken to the director of community development to actually look at some of those costs. We can actually look at costs associated with fees that associated with youth or with services, but we'd like to actually work out by a facility or by usage, you know, what is that cost, so that we can actually inform you correctly, and that will be subject to a further information item. Council does have the ability, if it wants to, during the year to actually amend those fees, as long as it advertises those in accordance with 6.19, but to respond to that elected member question, we would like to do a study in relation to what those costs are and provide that back as a separate item to fully inform the full council.
Thank you, CEO. And what time frame would you, and I won't hold you to it, just as a ballpark figure?
Through the chair, being my last meeting with the council, I think I could be quite generous here. But look, I think a study along those lines, Chair, would probably be somewhere around 6 months to actually look at each one of those facilities, bring somebody on board, assess what's the legal costs. You know, but we'd have to look at how the power was being routed. Was it through a single meter? Are there multiple users? What is the length of the use, so we can actually fully inform the council? It's probably not as simple a cost as one would think. We'd have to look at it on a facility by facility and club by club basis.
Totally understand that. Thank you, CEO, for taking that on board. Do I have any further points of clarification before I move an amendment? I'd like to move an amendment, CEO, in regards to this officer's recommendation. The amendment being, in light of some of the submissions and some of the public statements, I'd like to revert the green waste removal fees to what they were in 26-27, and along with the sporting rental for the user groups to remain as 26-27, as 25-26 for the 26-27 season, while we undergo these reviews and update council with some clarity and further information. Would you like me to suspend standing orders for a minute to word this?
Through the chair, if you could just perhaps provide us that in writing, if we can actually grab that. I guess we'd also have to look to identify whether that's a significant change to the fees and whether we'd need to re-advertise that. But I think from the point of view of getting the resolution into place now, that those green waste fees remain at the current budget level. Yep.
Happy if we use that wording, CEO?
Thank you, yes. So that you would have the council pursuant to section 616, 619, the local government adopts the town of Port Hedland 26-27 schedule of fees and charges, with the exception of And sorry, Chair, you're going to have to provide that detail again to us.
Yep, with the exception of green waste fees to remain at current budget levels and facility hire fees at current budget levels.
Yeah, that's exactly what's being said. Yeah, exception of the green waste fees. And sorry, Chair, what was that second?
And facility hire fees for sporting groups or user groups at the current budget level, 25, 26.
So Chair, you would have that Council adopts pursuant to section 6.16. This is your motion, Chair, if I'm assisting you. And to 6.19 of the Local Government Act, adopts the Town of Port Hedland 26-27 schedule of fees and charges, with the exception of green waste to remain at the current 2025-2026 level, and facility fees to remain at the 2025-2026 rate.
Yes, I'm happy with that. Thank you, CEO. And happy to move that.
Chair, you've now moved it. You now require a second and then debate.
Do I have a seconder?
Yep, happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have any against that new resolution or that new recommendation? No one against? All approval, CEO. Absolute majority pass. Thank you very much. Thank you, councillors. 12.1.4. Did I miss one? 12 point... Yep, 12.1.4. Notice of intention to levy differential rating. That council, following revaluations, feedback, considerations, 1, pursuant to section 6.36, bracket 3A of the Local Government Act 1995, endorse the proposed Statement of Objects and Reasons for Differential Rates 2026-27 as per attachment 1. 2, pursuant to section 6.36, bracket 1 of the Local Government Act 95, gives local public notice and invites submissions on its intention to impose the following general rates and minimum payments as provided in the diagram there. Number 3, pursuant to section 6.33, bracket 3 of the Local Government Act 1995, endorse the application to the Minister for approval to impose a differential general rate that is more than twice the lowest differential rate being imposed, requiring a simple majority vote. Are there any points of clarification, Council? Do I have a mover?
Also move.
Thank you, Councillor. And a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor. Any against? So moved. Point 2, community services, of which we have nil. 12.3, regulatory services. 12.3.1, Australian Mining Cities Alliance. Officers' recommendation that Council 1, endorse the Town of Port Hedland joining the Australian Mining Cities Alliance, AMCA. 2, appoint a councillor as a representative of the Town of Port Hedland on the AMCA Board of Directors and a councillor as a proxy. And 3, appoint CEO to the AMCA Operational Committee, requiring a simple majority vote. Do we have any points of clarification? Just one from me, CEO, if I can go again. Obviously, this is an advocacy group. Do we have any successful outcomes from this group in the roles or the lobbying that they've done previously?
Through the chair, this is us joining the group. Other local governments that you see in the report there have had success, as I understand it, in relation to looking at sort of the environmental, social and governance, providing some of those feedbacks on perhaps on a state and national level. But I'll refer any other answers to the Director of Regulatory Services Chair, if he may wish to add further.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I don't have a specific example of a successful joint advocacy, but the intent behind the item is to join with other cities or towns in a similar situation as Port Hedland and utilise that shared or collective voice for benefits to be brought back to the town.
Thank you. Do we feel a $10,000 joining fee is an appropriate figure for one of these advocacy groups? CEO?
Through the chair, that's the figure that's presented. Some of our other local governments are members and paying that fee component. Council does not want to join the mining cities. It doesn't have to pay that figure, and that could be part of Council's consideration if it so wished.
Thank you, CEO. Are there any further points of clarification or questions from Council? Do I have a mover for the motion or a nominee? Do I call for a nominee through the CEO?
Ideally, Chair, if there was a mover with two names, that would be great. Or if Council wanted to sort of debate that amongst itself now, you might wish to suspend standing orders and consider who those members that you might want to put on there, if there is a motion to this effect.
Council, do we have a mover and following those guidelines?
Also move it.
Move Councillor Butson. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor.
And Chair, would those names be available? We've got a motion that's live on the table now. Who would be those representatives from the mover? Is that something that you would put the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor onto that one, being a association alliance of that point? So, in other words, with the mover and seconder support, would that be appoint the Mayor as a representative and the Deputy Mayor as proxy?
Through the mover.
Can it be changed if it was actually the Mayor or that has actually got, if she's accepting it or not accepting it?
Through the Chair, it's not like a committee component, so it's putting the representative forward. I guess that discussion will also happen tonight when Council looks at the committees, as the Mayor's not here. It's only that representative of a number of local governments specifically has that leadership, but again, it is a determination of Council if it so wished. Yeah.
Through the Chair, I just would like to ask the Deputy Mayor if he is actually willing to be on there.
I think for the point of this resolution, we might appoint the Mayor as a representative, and I'll be happy to be the proxy at this stage, and then we can revisit that at the later item, CEO.
So, Chair, just for the sake of the clarification according to standing orders, so that would be number 2 would be appoint the Mayor, and the second would be yourself. Can I ask just for your, if you could clarify that the seconder supports that?
Yes. Seconder, are you happy with that to follow the movers? Thank you.
Motion's now live for debate.
Do we have any against that motion? All happy with that? So passed. Thank you. (12.3.2) Proposed scheme amendment number 9, additional use transport depot. Officers' recommendation that council, in accordance with section 75 of the Planning and Development Act 2005, PD Act, resolves to prepare amendment number 9 of the Town of Port Hedland Local Planning Scheme number 7, as shown in attachment 1. In accordance with regulation 35, section 2 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes, regulations 2015, determines the amendment number 9 of the Town of Port Hedland Local Planning Scheme number 7 is a standard amendment for the following reasons. A, the amendment would have minimal impact on land in the scheme area that is not subject to the amendment, and B, the amendment would not result in any significant environmental, social, economic or governance impacts on land in the scheme area. And 3, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to proceed to advertise the proposed amendment number 9 for a period of 42 days in accordance with Regulation 47 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes, Regulations 2015, immediately upon receipt of the Minister for Planning's approval to advertise. Simple majority vote required. Do we have any points of clarification? No points. We're all happy with the extra correspondence received. No further queries or questions. Do I have a mover?
I'll move that one.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder for that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor. Any against? So carried. .4 infrastructure services. 12.4.1 award of the RFT 2526-13 operation and maintenance of the South Hedland landfill wastewater treatment plant. Officer's recommendation that council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to enter into a contract for the award of the RFT 2526-13 operation and maintenance services South Hedland wastewater treatment plant to Veolia Water Operations Proprietary Limited for the total amount of 1-886-940.00, excluding GST, plus CPI in years 2 to 5 of the contract. Absolute majority vote required. Do we have any points?
Chair, sorry. Councillor, I believe you've declared a financial interest in relation to this matter.
Yep.
Sorry, Chair. In accordance with Section 5.62, the council has identified that she has a financial interest and we're required to leave the room for the matters debated.
Thank you. Thank you, CEO. Or you will be something somewhere along here tonight. Do we have any points of clarification?
I think there was questions raised. Sorry, through the chair. I think there was questions raised, and it's taken me a while to catch up and learn all this. But what do we do when there are questions raised by the members of the public in relation to moving the resolutions and taking into consideration what has been raised? So in this case, making sure we look back on business plans and business cases to be consistent with what the resolution is.
So is there a question in particular you can phrase that?
How do we take into account the members of the public's questions on the agenda items, because they've come to raise those questions? So how do we take into consideration what they've asked?
Thank you, CEO.
Thank you, Chair. As a councillor, you're able to take on board questions that are asked. You need to make a vote on your own right. The CO and the staff have the obligation to ensure that you've got an informed report. The reform to report is our officer's recommendation with that information. You need to consider all that information and make a determination. You're required to vote under section 5.21 of the Local Government Act, but that's a matter for you as a councillor to consider.
Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Any further points of clarification? Yes, councillor?
Is it possible to view the business plan that Mr Christensen had mentioned in his question time?
CEO?
Through the chair, I believe the business plan was well before my time. I'm sorry, Director, you might be able to answer that question.
So a business plan was done for the construction of the second pond. It wasn't done for this. This is a service that has been ongoing at that site since the wastewater treatment plant was constructed. So that is services that have to be performed under our licence. So the wastewater treatment plant has to be managed. We have to do monitoring. It needs specialist skills to do that. This is a tender for that service because the service agreement with the last provider has now run out. And so this service was tendered for that. So it isn't, in terms of the business plan was around, and I'm from memory here, I think was around the construction of the second pond. And the problem we had was that when we have to replace the liner of the existing pond, it would mean that there would be a considerable amount of time that the pond would not be available for businesses to be able to put septic into it, which was something that we couldn't live without. You know, it's a very busy service that the town has. And so it was then, on discussion and a council paper, council report, was that we would replicate the pond and we would build in some resilience to that service so that if one pond went down, needed to be fixed, we could at least maintain that really vital service. So we have septic waste from businesses, from camps. We take the overflow from Broome Council. So we have it is a very good business that the town undertakes on behalf of the community, and it makes a profit, and that profit is put into the waste reserve to fund the new new landfill that we'll need at Badari in 15 to 20 years' time. But that's a huge amount of money that's going to cost, which will be, I guess, upwards of $70 million to construct a new landfill. And so what the town has said is that we will start putting money away, and the profits from the wastewater treatment plant will go into that reserve to pay for the new landfill, and that's not such an impost at the time that we need to build that new. So this is a service contract, one that has been in place since the beginning of the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you, Director. Through the Chair, I think just for the public and whoever may be watching out there, we have a briefing meeting and we're briefed very well on what comes to us, and that was one of the resolutions that came to us. So if it seems that we are flying through these, it's because that we're very well briefed before the meeting, and you explain that really well. Maybe there is not enough education on our website about the services that are provided and who we also provide services to. Like, it's not only Broome, is it? It's Karratha and Tom Price, I think you mentioned.
It's Tom Price. Karratha have their own wastewater treatment plant, but because of the way the road works, the waste from the camps around Tom Price come to Port Hedland.
So through the Chair, I think maybe we should provide more of an education service on some of the things that we talk about at council meetings, so the public do understand what we're going through and why we fly through them so quickly.
Thank you, Councillor. That's certainly something we can take online. CEO, just as a point of reference and question without notice, when we talk about profitability of that particular plant, do we have a ballpark figure on a per annum basis that we're putting away from that particular?
Through the chair, I believe from a waste services, we make about, I think, revenues around about $13 million per annum. Director, do you have it by specific to that wastewater component?
Depending on how much is used, it has been as high as $2 million.
Per annum. Thank you, CEO. Do we have any further points of clarification? I've just got one as it comes to mind. Have we captured in that tender document any recourse in the event of any variations that happen over the life of that contract?
This contract is not subject to variation. It is a service contract. So if there was a breakage or there was some equipment failure, depending on what that was, that would then be subject to a further procurement episode, and that wouldn't probably be part of that project. They will do maintenance on equipment, but in terms of if you had a major equipment failure, you would then have to go out to market to have that fixed.
And through you, CEO, and I take major could be all sorts of stuff from a monetary perspective, but would that be brought back to council for review, or would that be done under delegated authority?
So council has what they call a significant accounting policy in relation to materiality or variance provisions. If it went over a budget component, or if there was something that, as the director advised, there was something that we haven't thought of, some component that had to be considered, under section 6.8 of the Local Government Act, CEO is not to authorise any expenditure without that being approved by council in the first instance. So if it was a non-budgeted item, it would need to come up to council if for consideration. And again, variances, I think as director said, this is a tender, and it's a service tender, and it'd be an unusual component if something else came beyond that. If that did happen, then council may need to consider it. I'm very conscious that, our variances, I think as I reported in that forward improvement plan, Chair, we had, $8 million in variances, and I understand that's a concern for council. Sometimes things happen that are perhaps not, that are outside of the scope. I know that's something that the forward improvement plan will be looking very carefully at in relation to how we do procurement and how we actually manage these contract components.
Thank you, CEO. Any further points of clarification? Councillors, do I have a mover? So I'll move. Seconder?
Second.
Thank you. Any against? Thank you, council. So passed. If we can bring Councillor Butson back. Thank you. I reckon I was left out there once for a bit longer.
It's an old courtesy, it's just to advise the incoming member of the resolution that was passed as officer recommendation.
Thank you, CEO. Welcome back, Councillor Butson. Just letting you know, the 12.4.1 was passed as per the officer's recommendation with an absolute majority. Over to 12.4.2. The Cook Point Caravan Park deed of variation. We have an officer's recommendation there that council, 1, approves the request for an extension of the completion of the maintenance and investment works originally scheduled for completion 19th of March 2024 to now be finalised 31st of March 2027 as outlined in clause 8.4A of the lease. 2, notes that the CEO will formalise the deed of variation under the delegation provided to him. And 3, notes this extension will avoid disruption of the 2026 peak season, allowing the park to remain open, operational during this time, and the approval of this request does not impact the current long-term lease and conditions or the financial obligations to the leasee of the town. Simple majority vote required. Do I have any points of clarification?
Yes, I do have a point of clarification. With this,
I was working off the... No, there was the updated one. The one that we just got reprinted. Sorry, councillor. We'll just make sure we got the...
Director, I've got, you just identified that there was a problem with one that the chair's reading off. I've got that the council approves the request for deed variation and acknowledges the capital investment, authorise the CEO Mayor to affix the common seal.
12.4.2.
Yeah, sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
That is the officer's recommendation. I think that one may have come from an earlier briefing, and an officer's recommendation put in this.
Thank you, CEO and Director. We'll make a slight adjustment. 12.4.2, officer's recommendation. 1, approves the request for the deed of variation, confidential attachment 1, to enable the extension of time for the completion of the maintenance and investment works until 31st of May 2027. 2, acknowledges the capital investment of approximately $7 million for the capital investment at the Cook Point Caravan Park. 3, authorises the CEO and Mayor to affix a common seal to execute a deed of variation. Simple majority vote required, and thank you for your assistance there, Director and CEO. Do I have any points of clarification?
Yes, I do have a point of clarification. At the briefing, I asked how we go with companies actually renting out those units. Did we find anything else more about that?
CEO?
Thank you, Chair. If I could just refer that one through to Director of Infrastructure.
I think it was a regulatory. So I think the DA is for a camp, not a camp, a caravan park, and I think that I think chairs is, you did.
Could you repeat the question, please?
So, Chair, when we were at the briefing, I asked, knowing whether there's, there was constrictions on how they rent out stuff, but they're renting out permanent cabins to companies in town.
So you're saying there were long-term leases for some of the... and your question being, do we confirm that that is or is not the case? CEO.
Through the Chair, through to the Director, Regulatory Services. And just, Chair, for 1 second, I know that it's Council's first meeting, but it's really important that we identify officers by their title. Yeah.
Thank you.
Through the Chair, if there is any alleged non-compliance with the lease terms, then that request should be made in writing and it would be investigated appropriately. There are restrictions on the lease around usage. There is not yet a development approval relating to these specific works. There is an amended application currently in the system, but the development approval isn't the regulating instrument, it's the lease, it's my understanding for this issue. But if we receive a request in writing, then officers can look into that.
Thank you. Any further points of clarification? Councillors? Do I have a mover?
Also move it.
Thank you, councillor. Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, councillor. Any against? None against, so moved. (12.5) Executive Services. 12.5.1 Elected Member Representation on Committees. Can I please I'd like to move, we suspend standing orders while we address this issue, or address this item while we work out our committee members. So I'm going to move we suspend standing orders. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you. No one against?
Sorry, Chair, who was the seconder?
Councillor Butson, sorry. I'll go with Councillor Butson, I saw her first. No one against? Happy to suspend standard orders 7:36 as we dive through our paperwork to work. So CEO, I'm happy if you can assist me here with there may be some questions and queries on some of the committees. Obviously, there's a few that have been shared around already about some preferences for some people. In my opinion, I'm not going to force anyone to do anything they're not comfortable with. If you have an interest in something, please feel free. Even in the event that there's a recommendation, we might have 2 representatives, but there's 3 councillors that are quite passionate about something. I'm happy to explore that as a more fitting avenue for us. Are there any questions or concerns at the minute, councillor?
I'm just wanted to check that we have Councillor Edwards and the Mayor's preferences.
Councillor Edwards made an informal submission on a couple of things there was an interest in. Unfortunately, I tried to make contact with him this afternoon, but I haven't been able to get clear clarification. So in the event, I'm happy to allow Councillor Edwards to lapse, but in the event that in future he comes back and shows an interest in a couple of them, I'm happy to revisit them. CEO, that shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Through the Chair, I believe the only thing I've heard that Councillor Edwards would like to be involved in was the Defence Alliance. That was the only component that I'd heard of that answers.
Thank you. And the Mayor has emailed me some of her preferences. I think history states that the Mayor ends up on a lot of these committees anyway, and we do have a bit of a template here. So I'm happy to just address them one at a time with some of the names I've got here, and we can go through, and if there's any concerns or you'd like to nominate yourself for any of these, we're happy to go through it. It's probably the easiest, CEO, at this stage.
Through the Chair, I think that's probably the best. Just go through them one by one and ask for representative and the proxy, or the different representatives as the particular committees or working groups require.
Thank you, CEO. I think also on my behalf, there's a few heavy hitters there that the Mayor and myself did speak to that we'll at least get one of us representing. Certainly like to take the opportunity for all of Council to be part of whatever they feel appropriate, and we like to share the workload. It's not all about 1 or 2. If you've got an inkling and want to be part of something, we certainly try and make that happen. As we're outside of standing orders, we'll work through it, and then we'll formulate some names together to come back into standing orders to then vote on, I think, the best way. So, number 1 for the Walga zone representation, I do have the Mayor indicate she was interested in that. We've changed that around from what that was. Okay.
Through the Chair, if I could just direct Council to the officer's recommendation and where those names will need to be placed. Yeah. So on your screen in front of you, if you haven't got on your paper piece, you'll actually see the officer recommendation.
Excellent. So, yep, we'll start with the BHP stakeholder engagement group with 1 representative and 1 proxy as a recommendation. As well.
Through the Chair, can I just clarify that number 10 and number 12 will be the Mayor and the Deputy for those 2?
Do you have a title for those?
Yes, it is the Regional Australian Consultative RAG and also Regional Capitals Australia.
Through the Chair, if I could assist Council. Generally, the Regional Aviation and the Regional Capitals Australia is normally always attended by the Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. BHP Stakeholder Engagement Group. Do I have anyone interested in that from the floor? Councillors? Councillor, thank you. Councillor Todd. And a proxy?
I'll go proxy.
Thank you, Councillor. Number 2, looking at the East Pilbara District Health Advisory Committee, looking for 2 representatives. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Todd, anyone else? Councillor Baxter on the TV. Thank you, councillor. The Headland Community Road Safety Group, looking for 1 representative and 1 proxy. I think the Mayor indicated she had an interest in this one, CEO. Was there any other councillors interested in that particular one? I'm happy to fill that role as a proxy.
Self as proxy?
Yes. Number 4, the Headland Housing Solutions Steering Committee. We have an indication from the Mayor. Any other?
I'm happy to be a proxy on that one.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Todd. Number 5, the Headland High School Independent Public Board, looking for 1 representative. There were a couple of queries around this one, CEO. I think Councillor Little, you were interested in this one?
Yeah, it's probably the only one that I can be on, so that would probably...
Yep, thank you. I'm happy to accept that. I think there were some queries and questions around the Mayor being on that previously, CEO. Do you have any context that you'd like to contribute?
Sorry, Chair, I wouldn't be able to advise why the Mayor was on it previously.
No, thank you. The Local Emergency Management Committee.
Chair,
Yes, CEO.
This is generally one that the Mayor would be on. So if there's an emergency, I think it's Part 6 of the Emergency Management Act, the Mayor also has very specific powers if we have an emergency for authorising emergency expenditure. It's normally something that the Mayor would be on this committee.
The Mayor has indicated that she was happy to be part of this. If all the council are happy to accept that one. And looking for a proxy. I do have a point of clarification, CEO. In the event the Mayor's unavailable under the powers that the Mayor has, would the Deputy then fulfil those roles with those powers, or you're looking
Chair,
to default
I think it would be really convenient for the proxy member to be the Deputy Mayor. It's that provision they're referring to. I think it's 5.32 that says that if the Mayor is unable to attend, the Deputy Mayor then takes that role. So I think that would be a great opportunity if Council would support the Deputy Mayor into that for the Local Emergency Management Committee.
In the event, so it's only calling for 1 proxy. In the event there were other councillors that had an interest in that, would it be advisable to have them there as well?
Through the Chair, normally local emergency management, we would chair that, we provide a bit of support. Somebody is more than welcome to attend those meetings if they so wished. It's really just trying to make sure that we actually have the delegate and the sub-delegate to attend there. If you wanted to have other proxies to attend that, by all means, it's firstly quarterly meetings. It's not a high meeting frequency.
Under that advisement, if councillors are happy, I'm happy to fill that proxy role. If there's anyone else who would like to be a secondary proxy, I'm happy to take that. Well, we're good. Okay. Oh, they made it easy. Where are we up to? The Northwest Defence Alliance. Yeah, Councillor Edwards did make a overture to that one, and I think the Mayor indicated she had an interest in that too. So, in the event that Councillor Edwards isn't here, I'm happy to nominate the Mayor in that role with Councillor Edwards as a proxy, and then we can address if there's some future consideration about maybe swapping them at a later stage, if that's Councillor happy with that. Number 8, the Port Hedland Industries Council. Port Hedland's interest, you'd like that one, Councillor Button? And the Mayor's also indicated she'd be interested in that one too. Would it be feasible to have 2 representatives on that one, CEO?
Through the chair, you've got your representative and your proxy. There would be, having attended the FIC meeting, I can't see a problem why why you could have another proxy if you so wish to. Yeah. So, Chair, I guess what you're saying is, are you wanting to have the Mayor as the representative and Councillor Butson as the proxy? Is that what you're saying?
No, I was saying we could have 2 representatives and remove the proxy.
Yes, you could.
Yep. So let's go with that recommendation. We'll have Representative 1 and Representative 2 for the Port Hedland Industries Council. Which brings us to number 9. The Port Hedland Technical Advisory and Consultative Committee. I did have the Mayor indicate she was happy for that one. If there was no one else from Council? No one? We might jot the Mayor down for that one. There's a proxy. Councillor Todd, thank you. Number 10, the Regional Aviation Consultation Group. Yeah, CEO, did you have some
Through the chair,
clarity on that?
again, perhaps answering Councillor Butson's question earlier, generally you would have the Mayor on the Regional Aviation group. Proxy might be somebody who has an interest in aviation or interested in how we deal with issues associated with airports, not necessarily the town's airport, also other airports that actually occur in the district.
You would? Well, I'll put myself down for this one, and the Mayor seemed to be happy with that. So, if the rest of Council are happy with that, I'll take that seat. And Councillor Butson, if you want to be the proxy, that would be marvellous. Number 11, the regional.
Sorry, Chair. Was the Mayor the representative, or?
No, the Deputy Mayor. So myself will be the representative, and Councillor Butson will be the proxy.
That's Council's decision. Yep.
Happy with that? Number 11, Regional Capitals Alliance.
Through the chair, I believe the RCAWA and the regional capitals really, they must be the Mayor. I know it's not, Council could put somebody else on there, but representing and speaking on behalf of the Council really sits with the Mayor at both a national and state level.
I think I'm happy to take that recommendation too. All the Council are happy there? Yep, thank you. So, well, congratulations, Mayor. Do we have a proxy for that one? Or going along those lines, do you think it's appropriate the Deputy sit as that proxy? CEO?
Could be, Mr.
Anyone else for the floor interested in that? If not, I'm happy to take that proxy role. Yep. Number 12, the Regional Capitals Australia.
Through the chair, that's the national one. So again, I think Council should reflect what you've done in 11 above.
Yep, happy with that. Happy with that, Council. Everyone, thank you. Number 13, the Regional Development Assessment Panel representation, with calling for 2 representatives, 2 deputy delegates. You'd like to be representative, Councillor Butson, and the Mayor has also indicated for that one. Was there an interest from the... Thank you, councillors.
So, Chair, am I hearing Councillor Todd as Deputy Delegate 1?
Yep, Councillor McDowell. And could we have a third delegate? Councillor all the way down there in Perth, you were putting your hand up as well? We have a third deputy.
Through the chair, Director, are we able to put a third delegate on there? I think we could. They just JDAP, or what's no longer JDAP anymore, the Regional Development Authority. They would just provide the training to the councillors, wouldn't they?
Through the chair, at each DAP meeting, 2 council representatives participate in the meeting. So if one is unable to attend, they would draw upon the 2 proxies. But in terms of the training, all of the delegates and the proxies would need to have the training to be able to participate in a DAP meeting.
Through the chair, Director, I think the question is, what if if council wants to put a third deputy delegate on that? I know the Secretariat controls it, but is there a problem with that?
Through the chair, I haven't come across a situation of having 3 delegates. Only a maximum of 2 can participate in any one meeting. So if there was a third, I would suggest that they would need to work out between themselves as to which councillors participated, which may create some confusion for the Secretariat. We can request whether that's possible though.
Through the chair, if the council wants to put a third one on, but perhaps, Chair, the option is that we put the third deputy a representative here, but in the knowledge, if the Planning Secretariat advised that we couldn't have the third one, the number 3 would drop away.
Sounds fair, CEO. Councillors, we're happy with that. So we'll roll with the 3 deputies at this stage until advised otherwise. Excellent. 14. Members to the Port of Port Helen Community Consultative Committee, calling for 2 representatives. Yep, thank you, Councillor Butson. Thank you. I did have the Mayor indicate that she was interested there too. Was it calling for a... you would? Thank you, Councillor. Councillor.
Councillor Baxter put her hand up as well.
I do have Councillor Todd and Councillor Baxter who showed an interest to, I think, the Mayor when she reached out. So,
Chair, so at this stage we've got representative number 1 as Councillor Butson, the second representative as the Mayor. Are the other councillors prepared to withdraw their nominations for that?
Councillors, would you be happy to withdraw at this stage and maybe find something else? Councillor Baxter, is that okay with you? Thank you, councillors.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, councillors. Appreciate it. 15, the Walga-Pilbara Country Zone, calling for 2 representatives and a proxy. The Mayor has indicated her interest in this one also. And Councillor McDowell. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Butson as a proxy. 17, to the Walga Roadwise Recognised Advisory Committee.
Sorry, Chair, I think it's number 16, isn't it?
Sorry, did I miss one? The Walga, yeah, you're right, thank you. Walga-Pilbara Roads Regional Roads Group. I believe this is...
So, the Chair, the Regional Road Group controls about $6 million worth of regional road funding and identifies what those regional roads are. It's also supported by a technical group. So you're in effect under the sort of multi-criteria assessment each of the local governments actually have to consider based on their roads. You're in there arguing, or I shouldn't say that, you're actually placing good valued information and debate that Port Hedland needs its share of the allocation on a year by year basis.
You had me at argue, CEO.
Oh, I never do that, Chair.
If the council are happy, I'm happy to sit in that space. And if we've got a proxy for that one, anyone from the floor at this stage? Sorry? Not at this stage, but I'm happy to leave it vacant. We can revisit it at a later stage. CEO? Are you happy? Thank you, Councillor Butson. Now we're at 17, the Walga Roadwise Recognised Advisory Committee with a representative one.
Chair, this one here, Mr Christensen approached me before the meeting and he did identify that this is a very, very specific request in that he was invited to go on this from Walga. We've put it forward because it was on the previous list, but if we put a representative there, Walga Roadwise Recognised Advisory Committee may not necessarily accept that because they normally do an advertising component now to local government. So if we're putting a representative on there, be aware that that may already have been taken and we have to let it fall away, councillors.
Thoughts, councillors? Happy to let that one park for the time being, revisit it perhaps down the track a little. Thank you. Make sure I've got everything covered. So if that's all of them, CEO, correct me if I'm wrong, that looks like we've got them.
That's correct, Chair. So you would need to reinstate standing orders and the officer's recommendation or the council's recommendation would be numbers 1 through to 16 now with those delegates that have been discussed this evening.
Thank you. If there's no further queries from council, we'll return to standing orders.
So, Chair, we need a resolution that standing orders be resumed.
As I die for a time. Do I have a mover? We return to standing orders at 7:58.
Also move it.
Thank you. And a seconder?
Second.
Thank you. Any against? Excellent. As we return to standing orders, we have a 12.5.1, as we discussed, for the elected member representation committees, with his officer's recommendation that council appoint said councillors from point 1 through to point 16, as discussed, absolute majority vote required. Do I have a mover on that one?
Also move it.
Thank you, Councillor Butson. Seconder?
Second that.
Thank you, Councillor. Any against? Motion carried. Thank you. Uh, 13, new business of an urgent nature, late items. CEO, before I go any further, is there anything you'd like to make reference to with a couple of those?
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to 13.1 and 13.3, so they were put on the agenda as I discussed them at briefing. I'd like to put 2 late items up for those. 13.1 and 13.3 are not prepared at this stage, and the CapEx project will come up with a quarterly report. So we don't have a business report for council to consider. Therefore, 13.2 now becomes 13.1, and that is, if council resolves to consider that matter, that would be the item that council will be considering this evening.
Thank you, CEO. Any questions or queries on that, council? Excellent. 13.1, the Port Hedland Observation Tower. Officer's recommendation that council, 1, notes a structural engineering assessment undertaken on the Port Hedland Observation Tower February 26 as per attachment 1. Notes the assessment identifies urgent structural safety risks that require timely intervention to mitigate unmanaged risk to the town. 3, endorses in principle the restoration and reopening of the Port Hedland Observation Tower as a managed public attraction as a preferred long-term approach to managing the asset, subject to further investigations to confirm the scope, cost and compliance requirements. 4, directs the CEO to undertake necessary investigations and technical assessments. 2, 5, confirm the scope of works required to address immediate safety concerns. 6, inform the restoration and reopening of the tower in a manner that meets regulatory and safety requirements. 7, explore external funding opportunities to support restoration and reopening of the tower as a public and historic attraction. 8, notes that a further report will be presented to Council detailing 9, the findings of the investigation. 10, the scope and indicative cost of works required to address the immediate structural and safety issues. 11, the scope of and indicative cost of works required to restore and reopen the tower to the public. And 12, a recommended approach for project delivery, funding and long-term asset management, requiring a simple majority vote. Do I have any points of clarification? No points. Do have one that we can take on board, CEO, one of the recommendations from the floor this evening from the member of the public in regards to funding opportunities for the tower?
Through the chair, I think that's identified in the report. I know when the officers and the senior team went down and had a look at this, being the tower that's really guided vessels in from 1965, it's a really important component. We would definitely be looking at opportunities. I think some of the discussion with the executive team was we could probably go up to the second lowest tower. I think the report said we couldn't use the top tower, it would be too risky when we assessed it against our own insurance risks. So that is definitely an opportunity that we would look at, and the officer's recommendation is identifying that that we would be looking at how do you utilise that from a tourism point of view, because the view from up there gives a total view across the entire Port Hedland operations.
Thank you, CEO. I must admit it does offer something unique to our town. Any other clarification points or questions, Council? Being the lucky last, I do like to make a amended recommendation. I'd just like to, CEO, if I could, make a point 13 on this recommendation. To consult with Council to workshop a policy that covers items of historical interest to be completed by October 2027.
Sorry, Chair, I just took a point 13 there that also says that, and that the Council develop a policy on the development of a historical policy by October 2027. Have I got that correct?
Consult with Council to workshop, is that the right term? Workshop a policy?
So in accordance with your policy on policies, we're not to put any policies up unless they've been workshopped in advance, Chair. So that would deal with that.
Thank you for the clarification.
Policy 1001.
Thank you, CEO. Well, in that case, I'm happy with that wording and I'm happy to move that item. Thank you, Councillor Butson. Do I have any against? Motion passed. Brings us to 14 motions of which previous notice has been given, of which there are nil. 15 matters for which a meeting may be closed, confidential matters of which today there are nil. 16 closure. 16.1, date of the next meeting. The next ordinary council meeting will be held on Wednesday the 27th of May 2026, commencing at 5:30 p.m. 16.2, with there being no further business, we'll declare the meeting closed at 8:05, and may I thank all in attendance, all the helpers, council, everyone at home, and especially the public for their statements and questions tonight. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you, Chair.
Well done, everyone. Thank you. Good stuff.